I'm Paula Heller-Garland. I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor. I teach in the Addiction Studies program at the University of North Texas. I'm the faculty advisor for Eagle Peer Recovery. Okay. I've been in the addiction counseling field for over 20 years, had personal experience with it prior to getting into the field, was compelled into the field from personal experience. And I've worked in just multiple treatment milieus and in the past few years at the University of North Texas. Well, college is just historically known for something that wouldn't correlate with a recovery lifestyle. I'll tell you something profound to me. At another university, I heard someone tell me that they were a collegiate aged person who'd gotten out of drug and alcohol treatment, and their decision was, do I stay sober and live a recovery lifestyle, or do I go to college? That was their thought process, that you can't have both. You can't be in recovery and be in college. And that prompted her to begin a collegiate recovery program. At the University of North Texas, while we do have a number of things that we offer students, we don't necessarily offer a student who wants to sustain a long-term recovery enough services, and we certainly don't pull them all together in one place for those students. A collegiate recovery program would be beneficial to people that want to go to college and be in long-term recovery, for the simple fact that it's really important that recovery not be the resources that would be beneficial to students in long-term recovery in order to be retained on a college campus would be to have those services that they need to support their recovery all on campus. We do have services. We have services in some in Denton and some in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex for people who are in long-term recovery, and they're great services, but we don't have them on campus. And what would most benefit a person in long-term recovery who also wants to be a college student would be to have those services here on campus, because it's real important for a person in recovery to have peers that are also in recovery, or at least support the recovery lifestyle. One of the things that you find on college campuses, not uncommon and not necessarily an unhealthy component of a college campus, is a lot of people drink and use drugs. It's part of the atmosphere. Sometimes it's an expectation of a college campus. If a person that's in long-term recovery has somewhere safe to be, and they still can have fun and they still can have the full experience of college, then that's going to be the most safe thing. That's going to be what retains that student as a college student. And that's my goal for a student when they come to school, is that they finish. That they get their degree and that they move on. So that's my hope, is that we can have a place to have people that are in recovery, stay in recovery, and want to come to North Texas. Prevention for students that we don't want to see engage in the behavior is beneficial, and we have that service on campus. We have that happening. Harm reduction for people who are going to engage in drinking and may not necessarily have substance use disorder. We have that. It's necessary, and we have that. What we don't have and what we need is something for people who are already in recovery or want to stay in recovery. The services we have on campus don't really speak to that yet. Probably the reason is society in general doesn't understand what recovery means. And so maybe it's just a missing piece, because we need to do more education about what recovery is. Long-term recovery in the college student would look like a student who has a healthy balance of life going on, that they're engaging in activities just like college-age students are encouraged to on campus, that they're participating well in their classes, that they're going to finish their degree, that they're happy, that they have the opportunity to experience all the rich things that college life can bring you: different cultures, different experiences, different community involvement, and when they finish, that they have such a heart for their school that they then bring that back to the school as an alumni person. One of the things that I think about when I think about collegiate recovery programs is it doesn't cost the school any money to have a collegiate program. It actually brings revenue into the school, and it retains students, and it's a population that we haven't talked about. We've talked about so many other populations. We have special programs for so many different populations and subcultures on campus. We've failed to do that for people in recovery. Absolutely. Just in the last few months here at UNT, a student created Eagle Peer Recovery, and it's phenomenal to me that just after a few months there are already 400 members, and that's just by word of mouth. That's just by a couple of students going into classrooms and saying, "Hey, we're here." That tells me there's an awful lot of people who want that support and want to engage in healthy, fun activities that aren't risky to their personal recovery, and maybe even people who aren't in recovery who just want to be involved in those activities for whatever personal reason they have. There's no reason for that population of people to be overlooked. That's a huge group of people. Just in 4 or 5 months, that's incredible. And I just am excited about what those students are standing up and saying that they want this, they need this, and they're willing to. Only thing they're getting from that is personal benefit. Nobody's giving them extra credit in class. Nobody is paying them. No one's, there's no benefit except just the personal feeling of, I want to be here and I want to stay here. I personally know of a few students who go to the functions of Eagle Peer Recovery on the weekends or between classes, who would normally have just gone off campus, who would have normally just stayed home, who would have not been engaged in things that represent the University of North Texas. And instead, they're becoming active students who not only are excited to be here, but they're proud to be students at the University of North Texas. One of the things that was most exciting to me whenever students began talking about having a support group or a peer group here on campus was how many people I heard from out in the treatment community and recovery community getting excited about the idea that there's going to be something at the University of North Texas that centers around people in recovery. Some of those people are in recovery themselves, and they're glad to see from back in their days when they were at the University of North Texas and their recovery couldn't happen on campus. It had to be something separate from the collegiate experience, that they're excited to contribute back to that, so students today can have that experience of recovery on campus. And how many treatment center providers were just standing ready to support and serve and make contributions in any way possible. Some of those have been monetary, and some of those have just been support through getting the word out. Some treatment centers are willing to give free beds to people who still have issues that need to be addressed while they're in school or while they've been out of school, or are the reasons that they aren't in school anymore to help them get back into school. So that was phenomenal to me. One of the things I hear from treatment providers often is Denton is a great place for offering treatment services, counseling services, and there's not enough here already, and they want to bring that opportunity here, and they're just ready to rally around the students who are doing the footwork to make recovery happen here on campus. I think the biggest benefit to the University of North Texas for establishing a collegiate recovery program is student retention. Everybody who works at the University of North Texas, I think ultimately the goal or the idea is that when a student starts here, they'll stay here and they'll finish here. And students who have who don't feel supported and who don't have a healthy balance in their life, or possibly have substance use issues come up again in their life, they're not going to finish school. They're not going to stay here. If someone doesn't stay and isn't retained in the program, we know that they're probably not going to come back. It's not as easy to come back once you've stopped. So if they have that healthy peer structure, if they can be on campus and be free from the stigma of what it means to be a person in recovery, they're not going to feel the shame, and they're not going to feel the pressure, and they're going to stay, and they're going to enjoy their experience, and they're going to finish. I think UNT, to support a collegiate recovery program, needs to hear the students and hear their needs. I hear them in classrooms every day, and I hear that they have needs, and I know that I hear the students talk about needing a place to be. that's not Fry Street. To need to have a place to be that's safe, to have a place to be that their peers are, that people who understand them are, and can congregate and can fellowship and can study together and can create together. I think a collegiate recovery program on campus could benefit society in general over the long term by taking action. People in recovery know what the disease of addiction is. They understand it. They also know what recovery is and what it looks like and what it feels like. And that is usually very different than someone who doesn't have that information. Society's stigma, I mean, there's just a stigma from society on what it means, what an addiction is. It's just bad people who can't get it right. And people in recovery can come together and educate society about the truth, about what addiction really is and what recovery really looks like. And I think a perfect example of that is what the students at the University of North Texas in Eagle Peer Recovery did back in September during Recovery Month. They went down to the state capitol during a recovery rally and stood up for what recovery is. And they weren't they didn't protect their anonymity. They stood up and said, this is what it looks like to be a person in recovery. And that's what's going to be required. I mean, that's going to be necessary for society to begin to understand that folks in recovery are pretty decent people. They aren't bums living on the street. They actually go to school. They actually graduate. They're actually statistically, they're productive folks. And it takes people in recovery like that to go and tell the rest of the world, hey, this is normal. And not only are we people in recovery, we have a voice, we vote, we make decisions, we own businesses, we graduate, we go to school, we're parents. I think it plays a huge factor in a student's choice where they go to school based on whether there's a collegiate recovery program on campus or not, because for many years in treatment programs, but whenever people were deciding what am I going to do whenever what's my plan of action for when I leave treatment, counselors often steered them toward places like Texas Tech, who have a collegiate recovery program here in Texas, and a great one. We have one down the road from us now at the University of UT Arlington. I want students to choose to come to the University of North Texas because I personally have a bias to think that we have a better academic program, and that the University of North Texas is an incredible place to be. I don't want someone in recovery not to come to UNT because we don't have a collegiate recovery program, when we have so much to offer, and that's the only missing piece. Collegiate recovery programs on college campuses are successful. They retain the student. They give the student a better experience. What happens to a student if there isn't one? What happens to a student in recovery if there isn't one? Probably they isolate from the normal life of a college student, and we either lose them as a student because they go somewhere where they do feel like they're part of the campus experience, or we lose them because they decide that college life isn't for them.